People always say hindsight is 2020, and I've had nothing but time to reflect on every damn moment I should have seen what was coming. I'm 35, living in Columbus, working as an industrial designer for a local firm that pays well enough to keep my house paid off and my life relatively stable. I've never been flashy, never reckless. My dad taught me early that money is meant to be used with caution and saved before it's spent. That advice carried me through my 20s and landed me where I was comfortable, secure, and completely unprepared for what was about to blindside me. I met Sienna when I was 32. She was 29 at the time and worked at a local insurance office, answering phones and filing claims. I wasn't expecting to meet anyone serious when I went to my friend Riley's barbecue that weekend, but then Sienna walked in like she owned the entire goddamn block. Long black hair, gold hoops that caught the sunlight, and a floral dress that looked like it cost 3 of my paychecks. She was out of my league and seemed to know it. But she smiled at me, asked what I did for work, laughed at my jokes, and by the time the sun dipped behind the houses, we were sitting on the same lawn chair, talking like we'd known each other for years. Our first date was a week later. She picked the restaurant, some overpriced tapas place downtown with candlelit tables and a 4-digit wine list. When the check came, she reached for her bag, then froze and made this sweet, innocent face that now makes me want to punch a wall. "Oh my God, I left my wallet in the car," she said. I offered to cover it, trying to be polite. She ordered the most expensive thing on the menu and a bottle of wine that made me twitch. When I brought it up later, as nicely as I could, she leaned in close, giggled, and said, "A real man always takes care of his woman." That should have been the moment I bailed, but I was already caught up, thinking with the wrong damn organ. The relationship moved fast. Sienna was electric. She filled every space with noise, energy, and perfume. She always needed to be seen, needed attention, needed praise. Every date night had to be somewhere expensive, and she never wore the same outfit twice. Flowers were expected, not appreciated. She wanted me to pay for her gas whenever she came over, and she'd complain if I didn't buy coffee for her on the way to work, even though she had her own car and bank account. I was spending close to $400 a month just keeping her happy, and somehow, it still never felt like enough. By the time I proposed 18 months in, I'd already ignored so many warning signs I might as well have been blindfolded. The wedding was a disaster before it even happened. Sienna wanted a romantic lakefront ceremony with a violinist, champagne tower, and a horse-drawn carriage. I offered a simple venue, a reasonable guest list. She cried, said I didn't care about her dream. So I caved. The total bill came out to just under $23,000, which I paid entirely on my own, because she said asking her parents for help would be embarrassing. Her dress alone cost $1,600, and she wore it for exactly 4 hours before complaining that it itched and slipping into a second dress for the reception. We didn't even make it a month into married life before she quit her job. She told me the 25-minute commute was draining her spirit and that she wanted to focus on being a wife. Sounded sweet at the time, like she wanted to build something with me. Instead, she started sleeping in, watching reality shows all day, and ordering DoorDash like she had stock in the company. She didn't cook, didn't clean, didn't lift a damn finger. I came home to laundry piles, sink full of dishes, and receipts for facials and nail appointments that somehow cost more than my health insurance. Every week, she found a new boutique to treat herself, and somehow, every conversation turned into why she needed another pair of heels or a new bag to match her personal growth. The house that used to feel like my safe place turned into a chaotic museum of her clutter. Makeup bags exploded across the counters. Shoes lined every hallway. Our food budget tripled because she insisted on organic, grass-fed, imported nonsense that ended up half-rotting in the fridge. I was working 50-hour weeks just to keep the lights on, and she acted like the mere act of existing in my house entitled her to every cent I earned. About 10 months ago, she got a job offer from Aurora Creative, some up-and-coming marketing firm with trendy furniture and motivational quotes painted on the walls. Her boss, Derek, was a guy in his early 40s with that smug, "I run marathons and cheat on my taxes" energy. I met him once at their company's open house. Leather shoes, manicured stubble, and a grin that made my skin crawl. Sienna started talking about him constantly. "Derek says I'm a natural," or "Derek thinks I have leadership potential." I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was finally motivated. Maybe she needed a mentor. But something shifted. She started dressing like she was going to walk a red carpet every morning, spending 2 hours on her hair just to answer emails. She bought new gym clothes, got a spray tan, and changed her entire skincare routine. I told her she looked amazing, because she did, and she smiled like she already knew it. Said she was investing in herself, which now I know was code for preparing for the exit. 3 weeks ago, she packed her bags for what she told me was a leadership retreat in Las Vegas. She was buzzing with excitement, said she'd be gone 3 nights, and packed like she was going on The Bachelor. Fancy dresses, her nicest heels, her most expensive lingerie. I joked, "You're dressing up for a seminar?" She winked and said, "You never know who you'll meet." The night she left, I felt something cold creep into my chest. I brushed it off. I was being paranoid, jealous, insecure, every excuse I could think of. Then, at 2:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. I'll never forget the sound. I looked at the screen, saw her name, and thought maybe she was checking in. Instead, it was a photo of her and Derek, standing in front of some grimy wedding chapel with neon lights and a flashing heart sign. They were holding a marriage license. She wore that white dress I got her for her birthday last year. Derek looked like he had pulled his shirt off a motel floor. The caption underneath, "Just married Derek. Been FING him for 6 months. You're pathetic. Enjoy being alone, loser." My heart didn't break. It imploded. For a solid 20 minutes, I just sat there staring at that photo, unable to move, unable to breathe. I wasn't angry yet. I was paralyzed. My thoughts weren't coherent, just scattered images of all the nights I worked late, the takeout orders I paid for, the weekends I spent cleaning while she got her nails done and posted selfies like she was single. 6 months. That number echoed like a scream in an empty room. For half a year, I was living with someone who was sleeping with her boss and smiling at me every morning like nothing was wrong. I thought we were just in a rough patch. I thought we'd get through it. I thought I mattered. When the paralysis wore off, I didn't cry or shout. I stood up, walked to my office, and opened my laptop. If Sienna wanted to play dirty, I'd take the gloves off. First thing I did was log into our banking apps. Everything was under my name. Every account, every card, every line of credit. She always said she hated dealing with money stress, so I handled it all. That turned out to be her biggest mistake. In less than an hour, I'd locked her out of every account she had access to. For cards? Gone. Authorization revoked. Passwords changed. I drained our joint checking account, 7,000 and change, into my private savings. Then I called a locksmith. A grizzled guy named Bill showed up just after 4 in the morning, still half asleep, but surprisingly chipper once I explained the situation. He didn't even blink. "Third one this month," he muttered while unloading his tools. They always think they're clever until the money dries up. By 5:30, I had brand new deadbolts on both entrances, a reprogrammed garage keypad, and a disabled key fob that had been hanging from her designer purse. Every point of access was mine again. While Bill worked, I poured coffee and pulled every document I could think of: deed to the house, car titles, credit card agreements, receipts, screenshots of our text history, and the photo she sent me. All of it went into a thick folder labeled, "In case she tries anything." At 6 a.m., I finally collapsed on the couch and passed out for 2 solid hours. When I woke up to pounding on my door, I already knew what it was. 2 cops stood on the porch, one older with a clipboard, the other younger and clearly trying not to smirk. "Sir, we received a call about a domestic dispute," the older one said, scanning my tired face. "Your wife claims you've locked her out and stolen her personal property." I didn't say a word. I just held up my phone and tapped the photo. "She's not my wife anymore," I said. "She married someone else 5 hours ago." Both cops leaned in. The older one raised his eyebrows. The younger one actually let out a breathy chuckle before catching himself. "She also mentioned financial abuse and theft," the older one said more cautiously. I invited them in, opened the folder, and handed them the documents. "I bought this house in 2017, I said, 2 years before I met her. Every account is in my name. She was never on the mortgage. Her cards were authorized users on mine, but I've since revoked that. I haven't touched a single item she owns. The older officer nodded while flipping through the papers. Looks like this is a civil issue. We're not here to mediate divorce law. If she married another man, this isn't domestic anymore. I could hear her screaming through someone's speakerphone in the patrol car outside. She was losing her mind, ranting about abuse and theft, demanding they arrest me. They didn't. They gave me a polite nod and left. An hour later, Sienna returned in full meltdown mode. She didn't come alone. Derek was with her, looking like he wanted to vanish into thin air. He wore designer sunglasses like it would hide the panic in his eyes, and stood on my driveway next to a silver BMW like it meant something. Behind them came her mother, Cheryl, always the judgy suburban queen, and her sister, Ashley, who looked like Sienna's twin if her soul had been drained through a straw. I watched them from my porch as they huddled near the garage, whispering and pacing like they were planning a heist. Then Cheryl marched up the walkway like she was ready for war. "You can't just lock her out of her own home," she barked. "This is illegal." I smiled. "Already spoke to the police," I said. They disagreed. Ashley chimed in next. "This is financial abuse. You cut off all her money. That's controlling." I didn't even flinch. I pulled out the folder again. "Want to see the paperwork? Every account is mine. Every credit line. Every bill. She never contributed a cent." That's when I turned to Derek and dropped the real bomb. "Oh, by the way," I said calmly, "I'll be forwarding your wedding photos to HR at Aurora Creative tomorrow morning. I'm sure they'll love hearing about a supervisor marrying his subordinate while still technically married to someone else." Derek went pale. His mouth opened, then closed. Sienna gasped. Cheryl looked like she wanted to slap me. "You wouldn't dare," Derek muttered. "Watch me." I'd already found the HR policy on their website: zero tolerance for romantic relationships between managers and employees. Grounds for immediate termination. Sienna broke down in that moment, mascara streaking down her cheeks like ink. "You're ruining my life," she sobbed. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this." I just shrugged. "You made your choices." I'd already spent the morning packing her things. Every pair of heels, every bottle of perfume, every skincare product that cost more than my car insurance. All of it was boxed and waiting in the garage. "You have 90 minutes to get your stuff and leave," I told them. "After that, it's going on the curb." That's when the universe gave me one more gift. Sienna tried to rent a U-Haul with her card. It was declined. She tried another. Declined again. Then a third. Also declined. Derek stood there, visibly sweating, before reluctantly pulling out his own wallet and covering the $130 rental fee. I saw the horror creeping into his expression as he did the math in real time. This woman had no job, no credit, no access to cash, and now no place to live. He married a hurricane, and it was just making landfall. While they loaded boxes, Cheryl kept ranting about lawsuits. Ashley kept calling me heartless. Sienna kept crying about how I destroyed everything. But the best part, the truly cinematic moment, was watching Derek realize what he had done. This wasn't just some reckless affair anymore. This was his problem now. The drama wasn't mine anymore. I was free. 2 days after the circus in my driveway, my lawyer called with updates that felt like someone handed me a winning lottery ticket soaked in karma. I'd hired this guy, Kenneth, on the advice of a friend who went through a brutal divorce last year. He was known for having zero patience for liars and an unbroken streak of courtroom wins against cheating spouses. When I picked up, he jumped right in, his voice dry but amused. "Well, she's filed for an annulment of her Vegas marriage, claiming she was emotionally manipulated into it by her boss. She's also demanding half of your home because, technically, you were still married when she left." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Kenneth didn't laugh, but I could hear the grin in his voice. "Don't worry. She's screwed. That text message and photo she sent you? That's smoking gun adultery and bigamy wrapped in a digital bow. She doesn't stand a chance, and she's about to make it worse for herself." Apparently, while doing his due diligence, Kenneth had started digging into Derek's finances and found out the guy wasn't remotely as wealthy as he pretended to be. His leased BMW was just that, leased. His credit cards were maxed out. He owed nearly 19 grand and had been bouncing minimum payments for months. His last girlfriend dumped him after he borrowed rent money and never paid it back. Even better, Through my mutual friend Miles, who worked in IT and had an iron stomach for dirty digital laundry, I managed to recover every text message Sienna had sent Derek over the past 8 months. When she upgraded phones a month ago, she never wiped the old one. The phone store bungled the data transfer, leaving everything intact on her previous device. What we found made me physically ill and yet darkly satisfied all at once. This wasn't just a case of cheating. It was premeditated life sabotage dressed up as a personal transformation. The texts were brutal. "He's so clueless, lol. Works his ass off while I plan my escape." Another read, "Just need to figure out how to grab half his stuff. He'll never see it coming." She went further. "I've been shifting grocery money to my secret account for weeks. Almost have enough for our fresh start, babe." And Derek, the human doormat, replied, "You're so smart. Can't believe how lucky I got." There were dozens of texts just like that, messages about how I was too boring, too stable, too dumb to notice, while she used my money to buy him cologne, watches, and hotel rooms. She even bragged about how I thought she was becoming more confident when she was just laying the groundwork to leave. It was a performance, and I was the audience she mocked behind the curtain. I posted screenshots, with numbers redacted, to Facebook for friends and family who had started hearing whispers about financial abuse and emotional neglect from her side. The response was immediate. Everyone who'd bought her story about my alleged cruelty saw the truth laid bare. But instead of shrinking from the exposure, Sienna doubled down. She launched a full social media campaign accusing me of controlling every aspect of her life. Said I restricted her spending, isolated her from her friends, and belittled her ambitions. Her sister shared it on Instagram with dramatic captions about women escaping toxic men. Her mom flooded Facebook with spiritual memes about forgiveness and new beginnings. At first, a few people even believed them, until I dropped the second batch of messages. That's when Sienna truly lost her grip on reality. First, she convinced her dad, whom I had barely spoken to twice, to call my job and demand I be fired. Claimed I was stalking his daughter and threatening her safety. My supervisor, Brent, who already knew the real story thanks to small-town gossip traveling faster than cell signal, laughed and told him to stop calling or face harassment charges. Then she tried to break into my house at 3 a.m, screaming about a necklace her grandmother gave her that I had supposedly stolen. The security cameras caught everything, her trying the door code, failing, and then pounding on the garage door until the neighbors called the cops. Turns out, she pawned the necklace 8 months ago to buy a luxury handbag. I had the receipt from the pawn shop to prove it. When she realized the police weren't going to arrest me for keeping something she no longer owned, she pivoted to insanity. Filed a report accusing me of stealing and killing her non-existent cat and hiding the body. I'm allergic to cats. I have medical records and prescriptions to back it up. When animal control followed up, I offered to take an allergy test and showed them every shred of documentation they needed. They closed the case after 2 minutes of laughter and apologies. Then she called my mother at work, crying about how she'd made a mistake, how Trevor was using her, how she wanted to come home. My mom told her, point blank, "You should have thought about that before you betrayed my son. You don't get a second chance after stabbing someone in the back for 8 months." That shut her up for about a day. She tried crawling back to her old church, the one we got married in, claiming I was spiritually abusive and she needed sanctuary. The pastor, who had counseled us during our engagement, asked her to explain how sleeping with her boss and getting remarried while still married aligned with biblical principles. She stopped attending after that. But the peak moment, the absolute high note of this deranged opera, came when Trevor's mom called me. I had never spoken to this woman in my life, but there she was, on the other end of the line, telling me I needed to do the right thing and take Sienna back. "Trevor's not ready to be a husband," she said. "He's overwhelmed. It's clear this was a moment of weakness. You were married first. It's only fair you clean this up." I almost dropped my phone. "Are you seriously asking me to clean up your son's mess because he realized he married a financial grenade?" She didn't like that. Called me selfish. Said a real man would forgive and rebuild. It got worse. That same week, I got a 7-page handwritten letter from Sienna delivered by her sister. It was a greatest hits album of gaslighting and deflection. She blamed me for everything: working too much, being emotionally distant, not planning enough surprises, not noticing her unhappiness. She ended it by demanding I pay for marriage counseling so we could heal together and rebuild what we lost. Kenneth, my lawyer, read it and burst out laughing. This is one of the most delusional things I've ever seen in 20 years, he said. She genuinely believes she's the victim. He was right. The court date was getting closer, and I was ready for war. She still had no idea just how bad this was going to get for her. I didn't just want justice. I wanted her to watch it happen in slow motion. When the court date finally arrived, I didn't feel nervous. I felt like I was walking into a theater where I already knew the ending. The night before, I ironed a button-down shirt, printed out every relevant document, and slept like a man with nothing left to lose. Kenneth told me to be calm, answer questions simply, and let the evidence do the work. I wasn't worried about Sienna convincing a judge of anything. I was worried the judge might stop the hearing halfway through out of pity for her. She walked into that courthouse like she was arriving at a red carpet gala. She wore a white dress, pure, bridal white, with pearls and a fake smile that didn't even hold for 5 seconds. Even the court clerk looked stunned when she passed the security checkpoint. Her lawyer, some baby-faced guy named Calvin, looked like he'd just passed the bar exam last month. He was fumbling his briefcase and whispering urgently to Sienna, who was clearly ignoring everything he said. Kenneth stood beside me, calm and unreadable, holding a thick folder like it contained a bomb, which it basically did. When the judge called the case, Calvin stood and launched into the most ridiculous speech I'd ever heard. He claimed that Sienna had been emotionally manipulated by her boss into marrying him in Vegas, that she wasn't of sound mind, and that the relationship with Derek had created a state of psychological instability. He even said she was suffering from an untreated anxiety disorder that impaired her ability to make adult decisions. The judge blinked, then asked if he was seriously suggesting she didn't understand what she was doing for the last 6 months. Calvin tried to walk it back, but made it worse. Well, not every day of the affair was conscious sabotage, he stammered. The judge just sighed. Then it was Kenneth's turn. He stood, smiled politely, and began presenting what he called Exhibit 1, a timeline of deception. He handed the judge a folder containing screenshots of texts, financial records, credit card statements, photos of the wedding chapel, and a breakdown of Sienna's secret bank account. It wasn't just damning, it was overwhelming. The judge sat silently for several minutes, flipping pages while Sienna squirmed in her seat, and her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. At one point, the judge actually quoted one of her texts aloud. "Can't wait to see the look on his stupid face when I take him for everything he's worth." Sienna went red. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He said he had never seen such calculated betrayal in his courtroom, that Sienna's actions weren't just immoral. They were deliberate, coordinated, and fueled by greed. The divorce was granted on the spot. She was awarded nothing except her car, a 2016 Civic with almost $9,000 still owed on it, and a few personal belongings I had already boxed months ago. But the best moment, better than any victory speech, was when the judge ruled she owed me 6 months of spousal support. I had paid for her online marketing certification the year before, and because she benefited professionally from that investment while contributing nothing to our household, she was ordered to pay $400 a month for half a year. The expression on her face when she realized she had to pay me was pure cinematic bliss. After court, she melted down in the parking lot like a busted fire hydrant, screaming, crying, saying I'd ruined her life and that this wasn't how it was supposed to end. Her sister tried to comfort her, but Sienna snapped at her too, saying she couldn't live in her Roach Motel apartment and wasn't going to rot in a 2-bedroom next to a litter box. Even Ashley looked hurt by that one. Cheryl, their mother, started yelling at me across the parking lot, blaming me for everything, saying I humiliated her daughter. I didn't even answer. What could I say that her daughter hadn't already screamed through texts for months? Trevor didn't even show up. Apparently, he'd called in sick and sent a vague text about needing time to think. But later that same week, Kenneth confirmed he'd been fired from Aurora Creative. My complaint to HR triggered an internal review, and it turned out Trevor, had been involved with at least 2 other subordinates during his time there. He was escorted out of the building by security, lost his lease on the BMW, and moved back into his parents' place in Dayton. Last I heard, he was working at some bargain furniture store and using public transportation. Poetic justice doesn't always arrive on schedule, but when it does, it's glorious. Meanwhile, Sienna was quickly drowning. She burned through the last of her secret savings in less than 2 months trying to maintain her lifestyle. She had no job, no references, and no credibility. Word had spread fast. Columbus isn't a small town, but circles overlap, and no one wanted to hire someone who blew up a marriage and a company in the same year. She moved back in with her mom and stepdad, sleeping in a childhood bedroom with faded posters and unicorn bedsheets. Cheryl wasn't happy about it either. She'd been planning to turn that room into a craft studio and now had a depressed adult daughter screaming into pillows every night and accusing everyone of betrayal. Sienna tried to rebuild her life online. She launched a blog about self-healing and empowerment. She posted staged photos, tried selling advice to women about escaping toxic men, and claimed to be a survivor of emotional imprisonment. But screenshots don't lie, and people dragged her every time she opened her mouth. Her credibility was shredded. Every inspirational post was met with sarcastic replies and receipts from our divorce. She couldn't even get a sponsorship from off-brand vitamin gummies. Her brand was radioactive. Then she texted me. Just one line. "I need to talk to you. Please." I didn't respond. A few days later, I got another message. "I'm pregnant." I didn't reply to that either, because I already knew the truth. We hadn't slept together in over 4 months before she left, and she'd been on birth control the entire time. I wasn't the father, and she knew it. She was just fishing for someone to pick up the broken pieces of the life she detonated. When she realized I wasn't going to play the fool twice, she turned to my mother again. Called her crying, begging her to talk me into a second chance, saying she was scared, abandoned, and had nowhere else to go. My mom told her, calmly but firmly, that she should reach out to the father of her child. Sienna admitted that Trevor wasn't taking her calls. His family had cut her off entirely. And even then, my mom didn't soften. "You made your choices," she told her. "Now live with them." The last straw came when Trevor's mom, yes, again called my office. Said her son couldn't handle the pressure of being a father and that I, as the previous husband, had a moral obligation to help Sienna through this difficult time. I laughed out loud and hung up. She called again the next day. I blocked her. What kind of twisted logic makes people think that the man who got cheated on, robbed, humiliated, and gaslit should now become the solution to the problem? I didn't create this mess. I just watched it implode from a safe distance. Every message they sent only confirmed what I already knew. They weren't sorry. They were just sorry it didn't work out. 3 weeks after the court hearing, I got a call from Trevor. I almost didn't answer because the number was unlisted, but some instinct told me to pick up. The moment I said hello, I knew it was him from the awkward silence that followed. "Hey, man," he said, trying to sound casual. "Look, I know things got complicated between us." That was his opener, like he hadn't blown up my life, married my wife, and destroyed his own future in a matter of weeks. I didn't say a word. I waited. He kept talking, voice cracking a little. "Sienna's been staying with me, and I gotta be honest, it's been rough. She's emotional all the time, dramatic, unpredictable. No kidding." He paused, then added, "My mom thinks maybe you should talk to her. You know, calm her down." That was when I finally laughed. Not the polite kind either. It was one of those involuntary, bitter laughs you let out when someone says something so delusional it sounds like satire. "You want me," I said slowly, "to clean up your mess because you can't handle what you stole?" He backpedaled immediately, but I was done pretending. I told him he made his bed and now he got to live in it. "This was never about love for her," I said. "She wanted an upgrade. Now she's realizing you weren't it." 2 days later, I got a message from Amanda, Sienna's sister. It was as dramatic as you'd expect. "She's having a complete breakdown," it said. "She doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, cries all night. She's talking about hurting herself. She made one mistake, and you're destroying her life over it." I didn't reply right away. I took a walk, cleared my head, then wrote one sentence and hit send. She made hundreds of mistakes, one for every day she lied to my face. Then I blocked her. As far as I know, Sienna never got help. She stayed with Trevor for a little while longer, just long enough for him to finally snap and kick her out. I heard she tried to move back in with her mom again, but Cheryl refused. You burned every bridge, she apparently told her. Don't expect me to carry you through the fire. Sienna bounced around between friends' couches for a few weeks before disappearing from social media completely. No more self-healing blogs, no more empowerment hashtags, no more carefully staged Instagram stories. Just silence. And me? I started living again. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up to drama or lies. I went to work, came home to peace and quiet, and actually enjoyed the silence. I even started dating again. Her name's Elise. She's nothing like Sienna. She's steady, grounded, emotionally mature. She never asks me to buy her anything. She insists on splitting the bill. When I try to pay for dinner, she smiles and says, "You got it last time. I've got this one." We laugh a lot. There's no tension, no games. Just two adults figuring things out together, one honest moment at a time. One night over dinner, I told her the story, not the dramatized version, but the real one. She listened without interrupting, no judgment in her eyes, just quiet support. When I finished, she didn't pity me or give me empty advice. She said, "You walked through fire and didn't let it turn you bitter." That's rare. I didn't have an answer for that. I just nodded and felt something in my chest loosen for the first time in a long while. I still get the occasional message from someone who used to be in our circle, asking if any of it was real. And every time, I say yes. Every word, every receipt, every breakdown, it all happened. And if it sounds too crazy to believe, then you've been lucky enough not to meet someone like her. People like Sienna don't explode suddenly. They unravel slowly, with a smile on their face and a knife behind their back. I don't hate her anymore. That took time, but I got there. I'm not angry. I'm just done. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that protecting your peace is worth any price. No amount of beauty, charm, or nostalgia is worth losing yourself. Sienna didn't just betray me, she tried to erase me and replace me with a lie. But she failed, and now I'm the one who gets to move forward while she stays stuck in the mess she made. She once told me that no one else would ever love me like she did. And she was right. Because what she called love was manipulation, entitlement, and control wrapped in perfume and lipstick. What I have now, it's something real, something earned, and something she'll never understand.